by 2035, every day you live after that, you might live 2 more days because of technology is going to be, extending life so much, which is kind of a crazy thing to be thinking about.
Wow.
And that's not very far away either. So, you might have a 40 or 50-year retirement. Welcome to Wealth Creator Radio, where we help people overcome the uncertainty of having enough retirement income. I'm your host, Eric Heckman, a certified financial planner with over 30 years of experience. We want you to enjoy life and not have to wonder where your money will come from and how long it'll last. My mission is to show you how to develop a personalized income plan so you can retire more and have worry less wealth. Here at Wealth Creator Radio, we cut through the noise and get straight to what matters. We understand that the world of retirement planning can be filled with confusing products, ever-changing tax laws, and volatile markets. That's why we're here to help successful people like you navigate the uncertainty and create a blueprint for a thriving, work-optional life.
Welcome. I am Luann Fulmer, and inheritance battles and legal costs are becoming a growing concern for families nationwide. According to recent headlines, some families are losing millions to lawyers and costly courtroom fights. So this is money that was meant to be left to loved ones. Eric Heckman from Heckman Financial is here today. He's going to help us make sense of all of this. Now, before we do get into our show, if the idea of leaving your legacy makes you anxious, or maybe you haven't updated your legacy plan in a while, call Heckman Financial today for a complimentary legacy planning review. This is what they do, and there's no cost, no obligation for you. Just call or text the word VISIT to 800-454-1184. Also, you can get the digital toolbox, and this includes Eric's book that he has written, plus some other really, really good resources about retirement. That's right at your fingertips. If you just call 800-454-1184 or use that text again, text the word toolbox. And remember, you can always find us online at wealthcreatorradio.com. So, Eric, excited to get started with you today again.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
All right. So these inheritance disputes, okay, obviously are terrible. I've seen it happen in my own family, which you never thought would happen ever. So tell us about this. This is not uncommon, right?
Yeah, I mean, it can be, I always tell people when somebody's estate's in order, it's a lot of work. And when somebody's estate's not in order, it's a mess. It could be a full-time job for somebody to fix. And that's without people fighting, right? I mean, that's just with people being nice to each other. So
I know.
So you throw in that and yeah, it can be really messy. So, and the sad part is almost all of this is really simply fixed with just couple signatures and, a little bit of time, right? But it's amazing how many people don't have it set up right.
Talk about what you've seen, some of the things that you've seen in your career.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's 2 sets of things. One is that I always warn people on, which is the weirder one, I guess, in some respects, but it's, for lack of a friendlier term, the junk, the stuff that pretty much has no value to most people, but it has some sort of value to that family. So, I had one case where it was kind of a rare timeline where I had 4 generations as a client. And then when, the eldest grandma finally passed away, one of the teenagers went in there and got grandma's shoes. And then the other ones were mad because their teenage daughter didn't get a chance to look at grandma's shoes. Now, I knew grandma. She didn't ever seem super fashionable to me, but the fact that they were fighting over her shoes was really ridiculous.
And surely she had another pair of shoes.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And but it's been stuff like, somebody's quilt or somebody's, whatever they bought someplace on some trip. And and some of those stuff really can get people actually almost more mad than the money, which you wouldn't think's the case. But
those sentimental things.
Yeah, but it often is. So those are easy to fix. I mean, just write it down. Take pictures of those things, put it into your trust, saying this person gets whatever, and ask your adult kids to say, okay, when I'm gone, what stuff do you care about? What is there anything you really want specifically? But yeah, on the money side, there's been other issues like a long time back. I remember I had a client that he had been the brother had been recently divorced, and Then they had a sister living with the parents when the parents passed away. And then my client and another sibling, all four of them were supposed to get the house. Well, the one that was getting divorced couldn't get a loan because he was in the middle of a divorce. And, he had to wait till his divorce was final so he could then, get a loan on the house, pay off the other siblings and give them money. And it ended up taking almost 2 years before they got their money. And, what do? Evict your other, have half your siblings evict the other two siblings, it just, but they wanted that money and they couldn't build up money with it. And, it's just one of those things where, everything gets kind of squished and put on hold until that gets rectified. So a lot of times there's some weird situations that end up where the parents say, hey, everybody gets a quarter of the house. Well, I didn't think about how complicated that could be.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. What a nightmare. And the parents aren't even there to witness all that, to help, Yeah. So give us some common factors that do cause inheritance conflicts.
Well, stuff like, just dividing everything up. I mean, especially when one child lives in the house, well, what's going to happen with that child? If there's somebody there who was taking care of mom before she passed away, is it right that the other siblings get their equal share of that house and get to kick her out right away? Or should she get a year or two to move out? I mean, it's not very fair if they were there helping and doing all this stuff. And, so that'd be one thing I'd think is just timing some of those things. There are things called life estates too, where you can have somebody retain the ability to live in the house, but not the ownership. And then at their death, then it goes to the rest of everybody. So there's different things you can do. And also just looking at, what types of money is all the beneficiaries equal? You don't want to leave somebody IRA money and the other one gets regular money that gets a step up in basis. So that one you get tax free, whereas the other ones you have to pay a ton of tax. So,
right.
Yeah. So you want to have all that stuff be equal. Sometimes I see some weird stuff where somebody has a couple rental properties. So they all pick a different house for each person to get. And, of course, then that, what are the odds of those homes all being the same value of the,
right. That was my first thought.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be equal. So, and then especially in California with Prop 19, it gets reassessed now at death where it didn't used to. So, most people are going to sell that rental property now when people die. So why even separate it out like that? Just sell it all and such.
Sell it all.
Yeah.
And then divide it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the hard part is lots of times people just don't really have a plan or don't think about how this will be on the other side of the coin kind of thing when they're having to figure it out and pay it out and stuff. So, again, that's why we've, set up some great information for people where, we can get into the digital toolbox, which has, stuff like, will my money last as long as I do in retirement? Am I paying too much tax in retirement? It also has a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and a way to set a time to talk with us at Team Heckman here. So all you got to do is text word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below.
If you are just joining us, I am talking with Eric Heckman about avoiding costly inheritance disputes. So, all right, why don't you just give us a how-to? How can listeners avoid these challenges, Eric?
Yeah, so one major thing is just having a plan, right? So, getting a will or trust set up. Ideally, if you own real estate, you really should have a trust. And, making sure about every 5 years you re-update that and you just recheck everything. People sometimes 20, 30 years and they haven't looked at it. And, they might have guardians for their kids who have grandkids, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
Some of that stuff you just need to fix. Then also, like I said, the sentimental things. What do you want to have? Who wants to get something there? That's a big one. And then, making sure everybody's included and, really just talking to people too about it, because lots of times people just do this plan and they don't mention it to their kids. You don't have to give them exact details, but you could, at least the rough thing and say, okay, are you good with this? Or especially if it's real estate or something that's complicated to own, is that something they want to handle, or not? It's just more about getting a plan, having it updated and getting it done. So, again, we've got a lot of great tools set up in our digital toolbox. If you want to have access to that, to copy my book, Worry Less Wealth, and a way to set up a time to talk with us, just text word toolbox, 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox 800-454-1184 or click the link below.
Would you rather pay more or less in taxes? If you want to pay more, don't do anything. If you want to pay less, talk to Eric Heckman to see what's possible for you. 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184.
Hi there, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. And it's not what you make, it's what you keep that counts. I mean, think about it. As you look at your finances and retirement, have you ever considered this? Some people tell you that it's less about the number of dollars you've saved and more about the strategies you use with your savings. And Eric, you talk about this all the time. Do you think your money should be moving towards one goal, retirement? And how do we get that movement started?
Yeah, no, certainly. It's no longer like points on the scoreboard, right? You want to have that nest egg be the biggest it can be, but if that nest egg's really nice and big and not putting off any income or not making it easy for you to get money every month, how does that help you, right? You need to start shifting that money, ideally about 5 to 10 years before you retire, into stuff that's going to pay out, stuff that's going to give you, that lifetime income. That's going to give you some monthly cash flow, right? And so that way you can go off and have all the fun, do all those trips, and do things that really matter.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, all our working years we were stashing away our savings, and then when you're ready to step into retirement, it's not just that nest egg you have, but like you're saying, it's turning those savings into that regular paycheck. That's where our paycheck's going to come from now. So talk about that, how you help people flip their savings into a reliable cash flow when they retire.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the biggest things is, it's first of all, it's just stressful to take money out because, I had a client, he's a retiree from PG&E, worked a long time there. So he's got a pension and other stuff, but I told him how it's going to feel weird and it's going to be strange because, you were supposed to, always told, don't touch your retirement money. Don't touch your retirement money. Well, it's actually not exactly true, right? Because at some point you're supposed to touch it, but, nobody just kind of talks about that. And then it was funny. I warned him about how that's going to make him freak out a little bit or make him worried. And then later on we met and he's like, wow, you were totally right. It is really scary taking the money out. But, for most of us, unfortunately, we don't have the pension like he's got. So it's maybe you get Social Security, but beyond that, it's about a lot of little paychecks. There's not one big paycheck that's coming in the door. It's, several smaller ones, right? So, and when and where do you take the money from? I mean, that's one of probably the most complicated ones. Now, most people say, oh, take your money from like your savings and stuff that's lower yielding at first and, use those dollars. Well, that can make sense if you're doing Roth conversions, you're doing other tax planning along the way. But often people just take the money that's got the lower tax and then wait till they're older. And, then all of a sudden they're at hit required minimum distribution time when you have to by law, take money out of your IRAs, 401ks, all that stuff. And, I've seen people in our planning process jump from 22 to 32% tax bracket, sometimes even from 12 to 32% bracket. So, that's not a little bit more tax, that's triple the tax.
Yeah.
And, that can be brutal. And so that is not the right answer. So really the right answer is taking some time, looking at this and going, okay, well, if we're going to take some money out of, we need X dollars. So how much do you need to live on for the rest of your life? So knowing that gap, knowing that big number, that's one big thing. And then, which pot of money? Is it going to be your taxable money? Is it going to be your 401ks, your IRAs, those types of things? Is it going to be your Roth, tax-free money, your life insurance, tax-free money, other things that you can have access to? And it's about blending all those things. And some years you may want to do certain stuff because, maybe you want to do more Roth conversions and pay that tax now and have less taxes for the rest of your life. I mean, that's what our goal is for most of our clients, or all of our clients, I should say, is pay the least amount in tax over their life that they can legally. I should say legally. So again, it all comes with having that income plan, that personalized income plan. That's where we go over that, those investments, the taxes, and where is that cash flow going to come from? And so what we did is we set up a really cool online digital toolbox, and it's got some really fast little brochures to read about, am I spending too much money in taxes and retirement? Will my money last as long as I do? Social Security timing decision, a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and even a link to set a time to talk with us. So all you got to do is text word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below.
And we thank you so much for joining us today. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. You know, a financial advisor is a great resource for managing your money, mapping out a plan for your future, including retirement. You've got to have an actual plan structured for retirement. But the thing is, Eric, it's kind of difficult to figure out which financial advisor can do all those things. How do we figure that out?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really great question too, in terms of, like who can you trust, right? And, I mean, of course, nowadays there's a lot of people out there. You've got insurance company people, the ones that work for, some sort of major insurance company. Obviously, they're going to be more focused on life insurance and other things like that. The bank people, the ones there are typically really product driven. So anybody who works for the bank stuff, they're usually a registered representative. They're not usually registered investment advisors. And so they're going to be working on a commission basis for everything that they're doing. And that means they have that suitability standard, meaning they have to do what's okay for your demographic, but it could be one of the worst products in the world. And as long as it meets your risk level and your demographics, it's fine to sell it to you, which is not ideal.
Yeah.
So
that's scary.
Yeah. So, so one of the things you want to do is look for ideally somebody who's works for a registered investment advisor. They would actually be called an investment advisory representative to make it more confusing. Okay. But, and so that'd be one way. Another great resource is the CFP board website. CFPs are people that, like myself, that took a lot of education, took a 1.5 day long test, which is not fun.
Oh my, that sounds grueling.
Yeah, and and then pays a bunch of money to CFP to become one. Still be one. So
keep it up. Yeah.
So and they also have continued education requirements and things like that. So at least they're staying current. But lastly, I'd also say is make sure that there's somebody that is really specialized in retirement. A lot of people are just mostly investment managers. And they're not really licensed to do taxes like I am, and they're not really focused on taxes as much and retirement distribution, taking the money out. So I think that'd be another key thing to look at. And actually on our main wealthcreator.com page, we actually have a quick one-pager that says how to check out your financial advisor. And it's a great resource. So I would definitely have everybody look at that. We've got the links for all the best places to check. And just like hiring a contractor for your house, you want to make sure that everything's good.
Exactly. You're heading into retirement or you're already there and you want to make sure you make all the right moves. Yeah. So click the link below or check out wealthcreatorradio.com. So Eric, let me ask you this. Are there signs that show a person needs to work with a financial professional?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think really anybody heading close to retirement, I mean, it's something you only do once. Right. I mean, yes. It's not, well, hopefully you only do it once because if you do it more than once, that means you messed up the first time probably, but
right.
So, and for most of us, it will be one time. And so you really want to make sure you know what you don't know. And, you don't know what you don't know until somebody tells you, right? So if you have somebody like me who's been doing it for 30 years plus, then we've seen a lot of stuff and we know a lot of those things. And, we can point out a lot of stuff that you might not be able to do. Now you can have AI try to teach you it and see if that's going to help you. And you can go to websites and spend all this time. Is that the best use of your time or are you just guessing and who knows what you're going to get? So, again, that's one of those things where we really want to make sure that things are working well. So, I would encourage people to look at that link and, really find out, but also make sure that person is focused on retirement planning. There's a lot of people who just invest your money, long term and try to build it. But kind of like a doctor's a specialist, you ideally want to have a specialist who's more focused on taking that money back out, how to make sure you have good foundational money, stuff that won't go away, some growth money and some income funds. And, that's what we do here. So again, if you want to get access to that toolbox, all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below.
Do you know whether your retirement plan has any weak points? Discover ways on giving your financial future the proper tune-up. Simply go online to wealthcreatortoolbox.com to gain a better understanding in taxes, Social Security, and other ways to manage your portfolio. That's wealthcreatortoolbox.com.
Hello, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. Thank you for being with us today. Retirement planning is a little bit like driving in the fog. You know, you've done it before. You can't really see through it, but you're not going to stop on the highway. You're going to slow down and trust those headlights, trust your gut, right? Well, that's the same with retirement. You can't see the finish line. You know, none of us know when our last day is, but you don't have to worry because patience and planning and guidance is going to help you get there. So, Eric, this is what you do, and planning for retirement financially can be difficult, especially since our life expectancies are longer than ever before. Are your clients worrying that they're going to spend all their money before their life is over? And then how do you help ensure them that, yep, your money's going to continue working for you through retirement?
Yeah, no, that's always, I think, every single study you show, that you read about, number one fear usually is running out of money in retirement. So, yeah, that's a big one. And, the other one that I have heard more and more from my clients, which is, I think, always fascinating and interesting, is more cognitive decline. Now, I've had a lot of, mostly the guys actually saying that, which is actually probably even more impressive. not the ladies, but where they've been running the money for the family. They're the ones who are kind of in charge of all the finances. And then they're starting to want to talk to me or help somebody else help them. Because they're worried about themselves being able to handle it as they get age and get older and pay attention to the markets and all the rules and all the tax ramifications and things like that. So it's a little bit of both now that I'm seeing more of. But, in terms of not running out of money, I mean, there's kind of two big keys. One is, making sure you've got a real number that you're going to spend in retirement. So the reason I always say a real number is because most people tell me a number that's not correct. They don't lie intentionally, but they do lie. So we do make them do this, what we call the no BS budget. And we actually even have a little spreadsheet PDF that people can fill out really quickly. And what you do is you take your last 12 months bank statements, put all the withdrawals in, divide by 12, and then make any adjustments for maybe more trips or healthcare costs and other things. And that's the real number. That's the real number you're going to need in retirement. And once you know that real number, then, okay, is that money going to last or not? There are some ways to actually truly guarantee part of that money for life. And sometimes we use those tools because those can be great. There's even some tools that double for long-term care if if that ends up happening and you still get that income for life. So, yeah, there's lots of options out there. Lots of times people just don't know about them. They're not really educated. AI is not the greatest tool for all that stuff yet, sadly, but so still need some humans to help out and people who know what's really going on with the tax code and everything else. So yeah, that's pretty much how we start working and how we really help people is really going through that income plan.
Right. And life is full of unexpected twists and turns that pop up along a long journey. So, Eric, the question is, how do we prepare for the extra hiccups that come along with a longer ride?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of people that are talking like Peter Diamandis and Ray Kurzweil. Those are two kind of future thinkers, if you want to call it that. And they both say that by 2035, every day you live after that, you might live 2 more days because of technology is going to be, extending life so much. Which is kind of a crazy thing to be thinking about.
Wow.
And that's not very far away either. So, you might have a 40 or 50 year retirement with technology and stuff. So you might need to really, really, really plan for a long time. So there's a couple things. One is having some pot of money that's guaranteed for life, no matter what. And that's not a government plan. That's a plan that you own. So, I think that's one critical thing. And there's a lot of studies that now show that is the only way to really, truly guarantee success. And there's a lot of great ways to do it where you don't have to give up your principal and you don't have to give away your money and things like that. So it's not like the old school tools that we used to have. But you still want to have some money in the market growth. You still want to have some of the growth money. And then, you still need those, so some income, right? You need money every single month. So not just the guaranteed for life money, but you need cash flow out of your portfolio to have fun, go do all those things while you still can. And that's one of the critical things is having a balanced portfolio. Most people, when we first meet with them, they are, anywhere between 80 to 100% of all their money's in the market, stocks and bonds. And that's not how you want to enter retirement. And, that's too high risk. You need some stuff that's going to be there, paying out that income. And I think a lot of people just aren't planned for that.
Right. So, we all know if you look back your past 20 years, life's full of surprises, right? And they're not going to stop when you retire, in the next, 30, 40 years. Some surprises are good, but others aren't, So how can clients set up those emergency funds during retirement?
Yeah, I always like to kind of call it the thing that never happens, but happens every year. So anybody who owns a house knows that.
Yeah.
Now, there's going to be something that's going to happen that year. It may be bigger or smaller, right? Maybe it's only a fridge or a hot water heater. Maybe it's a roof, right? There's all sorts of different types of expenses, but, and you're not going to have the same car for the next 30, 40 years, right? You're going to need another car in retirement. There's some stuff that you just know you're going to have. So, budgeting that in and having that be part of your number is critical, and that way you've got a pot of money there. You've got some resources set aside. And, that's why we build out that personalized income plan. And, one of the things that people can do is if they want to get a copy of this, if they want to, get their own personal one, basically our process is we first do a phone call or Zoom call and we find out what's the situation, what's going on in your life and, answer whatever questions we can there. But, if it makes sense for both of us to proceed, there's actually no cost right now to doing that next step where we actually do that blueprint where we take your money and show you, here's where like the freeway, here's where you're headed. Is there, potholes up ahead, road construction, traffic jams, police, right? If you're going faster. But, whatever might be coming at you. And so then, then we make recommendations. And then at the end of that second meeting, that's when we decide if we want to work together or not. So, we give a lot of value, a lot of time on our side. So if that's something you want to take advantage of, I'd definitely say, hey, why not? Right. So, all you have to do is text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit to 800-454-1184 or click the link below.
And we're so happy to have you with us today. I know you're getting a lot of great information from Eric today, and you should. He's been doing this for over 30 years. So he's seen it all. And he and his team would love to guide you with any questions that you have regarding your retirement. And you are watching Wealth Creator Radio and listening to Wealth Creator Radio. So, one thing I do want to get into are taxes. And it's funny how they surprise so many retirees. They're due at the same time every year, right? But they do seem to pop out of nowhere once you're in retirement. So talk about that. What are some of the perks of getting a jump start on tax planning for retirement, Eric?
Yeah. So, taxes are not going to go away, and taxes are the number one thing that people pay money for in retirement. It's not healthcare. It's actually taxes as the number one cost. So, you need to have a tax plan, and a huge one. And it's very complicated in retirement because you used to have one big paycheck and it had withholding. Now you're in charge of all that yourself, and you have to figure out, how much to fund and send, and based on what you took out that year. So it can be really complicated. So, again, if you want to look at your income plan, your investment plan, and tax plan all in one place, that's what we could help you with the blueprint to worry less wealth. And we can create that income plan for you. So the first step is just setting up that 15 to 30 minute phone call. If you want to do that, all you got to do is text the word visit 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit 800-454-1184 or click the link below. This is Eric Heckman. I'm excited to share a sneak peek of a movie I co-produced, The Psychology of Retirement.
Who are the baby boomers?
If I had to describe the baby boomer generation in one word, it would be independent.
To be honest, I have done zero preparations.
My number one fear about retirement is the future. 20 years from now. I just want enough money to be able to live.
The whole purpose of money is to give yourself a better life, not just for your money to pay your bills, but to reduce an amount of anxiety and uncertainty that you have in your life so that you can actually enjoy these years that you probably spent decades building up for.
To get your free link to the movie, text the word movie to 800-454-1184. That's movie 800-454-1184.
Investment advisory and insurance services offered through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., an SEC registered investment advisor. Hi there, I'm Luann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. So glad to have you with us. We're going to get into some hard financial truths regarding retirement. And our goal is not to scare you, but to help you prepare, right? Mm-hmm. And so, of course, Eric is here to help us figure this out. I want to start with Social Security, Eric. According to reports, these benefits have lost about 20% of their buying power since 2010. And even with those cost of living adjustments, still losing its buying power. So why is that such a serious problem for retirees?
Yeah, well, I mean, you get that tiny little paycheck raise, very small. Then they usually increase Medicare at the same time. So it's like, here's some more money. And then, oh, by the way, I need to take some money, right? And they take it right back from you. It's like, hold on, what? So that could be one tough thing. And inflation's very actually person specific too, because it depends on what you're spending your money on, right? And typically especially when you first retire, hopefully you got that bucket list. You're doing all that fun stuff, right? You're going out and travel and all that things. And when you have oil spike up and all of a sudden the airfare goes up and, driving, doing staycation type stuff or drive around the US goes up. I mean, that's going to affect people that have the money to travel more, right? And, so that's going to be a little bit harsher effect. And then, obviously the other big one is as you age, you do have to spend more on medical stuff, and medical inflation has always been higher than overall inflation. So yeah, you can't just rely on Social Security and think you're going to be good. I think hopefully pretty much everybody knows that by now. Right. But you really need to have some other monies growing and at least hopefully outpacing inflation, and not just sitting in a bank at 0.01, because there's still some people that have those horrible low interest rate accounts, and there's so many good places where you can put guaranteed money that you can earn even right now 4 or 5% easily. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I do worry about baby boomers, my peers who have not saved enough and all they're relying on is Social Security. That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
The trust funds are projected to run short. We've talked about that a lot. If lawmakers, don't do anything, then our benefits could automatically be cut 19% in 2034. So how should retirees be reacting to this?
Well, I think almost in one thing we should probably even stop saying what year it's going to be, because it makes it sound far away, right?
Yeah.
Start saying in 8 years, in less than 8 years, right?
Right.
This number, when I started in the business in the 90s, this number has only changed by 1 to 2 years. It's been anywhere from 2034 to 2036 since the 90s.
Okay.
This is not anything to do with any recent administration. This is just, like you mentioned, baby boomers. It's one wave of people that are going through the system, and there's a lot less workers behind them to pay for it all. And we've known this for a long, long time, and nobody's doing anything. Government, there's been proposals for the last 15, 20 years to fix this, but it's something that's farther down the road. Well, now it's less than 8 years away, and that's getting scary. Especially if you're planning on retiring in 4 or 5 or 6 years. Now hopefully they don't go after people who are currently retired. I think that would be one way to lose your office if you're an elected official. So.
Oh, right. And they don't want to do that. Yeah, they want to stay in power.
Yeah. So they do anything they can to stay in that office. So I think there will be some fix at some point, but I don't think there's going to be one before 2028, which means we're going to be super short notice on this. And, it's going to probably, require a lot of other people to pay more in tax and other stuff. But if they don't do a fix, you could have a 20% pay cut. And that would be a huge effect for most people in retirement. So that's why you need to have some money of guaranteed money on your own that's not a government plan.
Right. Okay. Very good. And you can help people get that, can't you? That's what you guys do.
Yep.
Yeah. The next hard truth I want to bring up, healthcare. Okay. And retirees might need hundreds of thousands of dollars for out-of-pocket healthcare expenses over the course of their retirement. We've talked about that all, ever since you and I have been doing this show. How should people prepare for that reality?
Yeah, I mean, healthcare is really brutal if you're trying to retire pre-65. Most people don't even realize that it's $1,000 to $1,300 per person before 65. Now, once you're 65, it's about $300-400-ish. So a lot better. It's actually pretty good coverage once you have that supplement in place. So, very, very different once you're, 65 and up. But yeah, if you're trying to retire early, you better have a lot of extra money, accounted for that. And I mean, one thing that we probably don't talk enough about is like health savings accounts. I've always had a health savings account and big fan of those. Those are ones where, you can put money, you have to have a high deductible plan. So drawback is, while you're working, you may have more costs and have to pay a little bit more stuff, but you can put, it's getting close for family coverage. It's almost up to $10,000 a year now that you can put away tax-free, and then the money comes out tax-free. And so, sorry, I shouldn't say you put the money away tax deductible. So you're getting a write off and then you don't pay the tax at the other end. That's pretty rare anywhere in the tax code that you get both sides.
Yeah.
And so, I've now, had some clients that have, 50 to 100 to even 200,000, because you can also invest that money inside that health savings account. And so lots of times people won't even spend that money, even though they could reimburse themselves, just pay it out of pocket, save those receipts, and you can reimburse yourself in retirement and then get that money back out tax-free. So there's a lot of great tools out there, but again, it's all about knowing that stuff. And I think knowledge is probably one of the biggest keys in retirement. AI does not know everything, right? You can ask it stuff, but it only knows what it's been trained on, and lots of times it's not been trained on the right stuff. So, so that's one of those things where, we've set up a digital toolbox for people to be able to get that access to that info. And, so things like, will my money last as long as I do? Things like, am I spending too much money in taxes and retirement? Copy my book, Worry Less Wealth. And even a way to set a time to talk with us for a 15 to 30 minute call, no cost, no obligation. So all of that is in our digital toolbox. To get access, text word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below.
And we're so happy you joined us. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about some of the hard financial truths that retirees need to face while they still have time to plan for them. And Eric, another one is that old 4% rule. It's officially outdated. The new research suggests 3.7% starting for that withdrawal rate. Might be a safer number rather than the 4%. But what's your reaction to that? Should it even be less than that?
Well, the problem with that rule is it bases 100% of the money on the stocks and bond market. I'm sorry, but I don't know anybody who would love to have 100% of all their money at risk all the time. That is not a fun retirement. That's one where you're worried every single news cycle about whatever is going up and down. If we have another decade like the 2000s decade where the S&P was slightly negative over 10 years, that would really kill 4% or 3.7% rule.
Right.
It would cause a lot of damage. And and to be honest, there's ways to get a lot higher payouts. You can use guaranteed products and sometimes get 6-7% payouts. If you're older, maybe even 8%. So it's more about how to really have a plan of which ways to take the money out. You want to ideally get, a lot of cash flow, but you want to have some money guaranteed that's not going to be based on the market. Because, if we went through another .com crash or we go through another '08 meltdown, and those things happen, right? We know they're going to happen. We don't know what the next one will be called, other than pretty sure it's going to be called the AI bubble. But at some point, it will pop. It'll go the other way for a while, and who knows how big or how long. But if you're just now retiring and then that bubble bursts and you're down a whole bunch, and you're trying to count on this weird little rule, it's going to be a tough thing to do. So, again, that's why we set up that digital toolbox. That's why we set up this way to really make sure what's going to happen in retirement. And so all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below online.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will the roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a great run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather the financial storm? Now may be a great time to have your retirement plan inspected. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial at 800-454-1184 now. Eric will examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial today at 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
All right, we have come to the time in our show, Eric. I love this part. You give us a story about some retirees that you have helped. Today, you're going to do a wealth success story. It's always a great lesson, to see how things worked out for the best with retirees. So tell us what you have for us today, please.
Yeah, well, I guess talk about Scott and Alex here. So they've been clients for quite some time, and they'd already, before we met, had done a pretty good job of saving up a bunch. And, over the years, we just kept doing different planning. We were taking advantage of that mega backdoor Roth, where you can fund extra money into your 401k after tax basis and convert it. And so that was helping them build up a ton of money now in tax-free, along with the taxable money that, they'd been building up over all the years, funding 401ks and IRAs and such. And, they were getting closer to retiring. And, what happens in Silicon Valley quite often happened, and unfortunately, Scott there, and he got laid off, very common and definitely coming back around a lot more, it seems like now. And so I think kind of post-COVID, they're, a lot of these places overstaffed, and now they're starting to go, okay, who do we really need?
Yeah.
In his case, they got rid of his entire department. That was kind of brutal.
Yeah.
And he'd been there for quite some time. So, now the nice thing is that, they give you, most of these companies will give you some nice exit packages. So you did get, several months of pay and all that stuff, but still it was kind of planning on going for a few more years.
Aww.
And I see this a lot where people, they're supposedly not ageism. There's supposedly not issues like that. But, if you're being interviewed by somebody in a hoodie and sandals and you've got gray hair, they kind of know you're older, right? So,
yeah.
And they're, especially if they're like, wow, you're older than my dad or something like that, not good. They're not saying that out loud, of course, right?
Right.
But mentally, they're probably saying stuff like that. And, and so that's one of the tougher things I find is a lot of people end up, getting retired before they planned on doing it. But the nice thing is when we're running the numbers for them, that, they can be fine. They're kind of crazy also in the remodel of the kind of like their dream retirement home. So it wasn't necessarily the best time. But, in some kind of silver linings part, well, when you're remodeling something, there's all these decisions, all these things to make. Well, now you're going to have time to go do those, right?
Be there, yeah.
Yeah, you'll be able to go see them and watch them and stuff. So, so that's one of those things that I think people, in terms of the moral of the story, is really, if you're 60 plus in Silicon Valley, you need to be, ready in case your job changes, right? In a forcibly manner, right? Where you don't have the option. And, and I've seen it so many times, and it's very hard for people to get a job back into that same industry. Now, a lot of times you go off and do a fun job, right? Work at the mountain winery, have some concerts, right? I've got some people working at SAP, enjoying the concerts, the Sharks games, other things, so you could do a job for fun, something that you're interested in. There's lots of different options, but, again, you got to keep those options open, and really figure out what's the best thing for you. But definitely, if you have that planning ahead of time and you're on track and you're on track, if something bad happens, you're going to be okay. Thank you for tuning in to Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Eric Heckman, and it's been a pleasure guiding you towards a more confident and secure retirement. Remember, my responsibility is to always do what's right for you, our client. Together, we can cut out that fancy-sounding financial jargon that doesn't help and focus on what truly matters for your financial future. If you're ready to take control of your retirement planning and build a personalized income plan, contact us at 800-454-1184 and text the word Toolbox to schedule a complimentary consultation. If you're looking for more resources and tools to build your retirement future, don't forget to check out the Wealth Creator Toolbox, your toolkit for a secure and confident retirement journey. Until next time, retire more and worry less with Wealth Creator Radio.
Information provided during Wealth Creator Radio is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. Eric Heckman offers investment advisory services through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Any tax advice given as part of this presentation is not intended to be used and cannot be used by the taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding tax penalties or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any matter or transaction addressed herein. The views and opinions expressed in the program are not necessarily those of the radio station or its sponsors, and they should not construe as legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult the appropriate advisor before making any financial decision.